If you're taking your dog to the vet, there are a couple of things you need to bring to make sure you are making the most out of your time and saving yourself a lot of stress when it comes to your exam. The first thing that you need is a leash. Your dog has to be on a leash when you take them to the vet. Now, you are going to need that to get them from the car into the waiting room, into the exam room. You're going to need to be able to transport them. The trick comes in when we have smaller dogs or puppies that we can carry. Sometimes if we can carry them, we don't think about putting them on the leash, and that is when it becomes a problem. If the techs have to take your dog to the back room and they're not on a leash, that's an issue. If you are bringing in a dog and it's not leashed and you have to put it down or you have to sign paperwork, you have to do things, that's going to be a problem. Now, some vets will have leashes there, but they're very begrudgingly going to give it to you if you absolutely need one because you didn't bring it, and there's probably going to be some judgment involved. So you need to make sure you have a leash with you at all times. And especially when we're talking about puppies and small dogs, we have to make sure we have that so that we can function. And that also goes for dogs that you bring in a carrier. Just because they're in a carrier does not mean they're not going to have to walk their little selves out to the yard to go to the bathroom or to the back room to do part of the exam or to get some kind of shot or something they're not going to get in the room. So even if you're bringing your small dog in a carrier, you got to make sure you have a leash. And that tip does not just apply to small dogs or to puppies. I've seen some people show up with really big dogs without a leash to their vet appointment. So just make sure you have a leash. I like to keep extra ones in my car. So I always have leashes in my car, even if something happens and I forget it. I've carried my dog to the car or something. I will always have those extra leashes. I also carry one in my purse with me just in case a leash breaks or someone finds a lost dog and needs a leash. Like I have a Mary Poppins bag, so I like to carry things with me. It's really important to make sure you have those extra leashes so that you can use them when you need to, but always bring your dog to the vet on a leash. And you also want to make sure that you are bringing a list of your dog's dog food and the quantity that you are going to be feeding your dog. This is incredibly important because as you are filling out the paperwork, as the techs are sitting in the waiting room with you, filling out your intake information, you're going to have to tell them what type of food. Now, you can say dry food or wet food or fresh food or whatever. You can be a little vague about it. They'll take it if you don't know these things, but you got to know these things. They judge you if you don't. So make sure you know your dog's food brand. I know a lot of us go by the way the bag looks in the aisle. I get it. I do it. But making sure you have either it written down in a note on your phone, or even better yet, a picture of the front and the back of the bag so that you can pull it up is really helpful. I know, especially when I got my puppies and I was bringing them to a brand new vet, I had a conversation about the type of dog food that I was feeding them, and she was not familiar with one of the brands. She wanted to make sure that it was okay and not one of those weird boutique brands. And so I did not have a picture of it. Had I had a picture, it would have made it a lot easier. We had to Google it and look it up, and she okayed that particular type of food. And it was the first she had heard of that particular brand, which was now in all of the stores. So having that photo there is good because you have all the information, you have the nutrition profile so that your vet can look at that as well. And knowing the quantity is really important. So often we think of the scoop. So I give my dogs 2 scoops of food, but what size is the scoop? I don't know, right? Some people use coffee mugs. Like they dig into their food with a coffee mug and that's how they feed their dog. Well, how much is that? That's even harder to remember than a measuring cup that you're using to feed your dog with, right? So write down the brand and the quantity and bonus points for having that picture of the nutrition profile on the back of the bag, just in case anybody needs to have a conversation about that while you are at the vet. And speaking of having things written down, you also want to have a running list, a note of anything that's been happening with your dog along the way, especially if they're there for a specific reason. If your dog is hurt, if they're sick, if they're injured, if something's going on, if you've noticed something pop up on their body and you've been tracking it, have the notes. Have the notes with the dates and the descriptions. If you are documenting these things, we actually just did a really good video about documenting your dog's allergies, making sure you have the dates, the description, and photos and videos, if it is going to be changing, are incredibly helpful. I do recommend watching that particular video on documenting your dog's allergies. It also goes for your dog's injuries. So just because I say allergies, I'm talking about allergies in it, You can also apply this when your dog gets hurt. So I'll link that one down below for you. Very valuable for you to be watching. And then you want to make sure that you are showing that documentation to your vet. Because if you walk in and say, oh, well, this has been going on, they're going to have questions. How long? How has it changed? What does it look like? What symptoms were they showing? What signs were they showing? If you don't have answers to that, why are you there? They're not going to be able to give you qualified help if they don't have the information. So give them the resources to help make the best evaluation of your dog. If you're starting to notice something, even if it ends up being nothing, document it. Have it written down, have the photos, have the videos, have the timestamps on the photos and the videos, and then use it for your vet visit. But go back and watch that video that I'm linking down below for you on documenting allergies, because I also talk about how that documentation can help you in other ways. So go watch that. Very valuable for you. You also want to make sure that you're writing down any medications that you're giving your dog. So anything that is going to be helping with their allergies, anything that's going to be helping with their itchiness, anything that's going to be a supplement that you're giving them, write all those things down. Anything your dog is eating that is not food, write those things down. Write down the information. If you have the bottle, make sure you're taking a photo of the information on what's in it, why you're using it, how much you're using of it. Have all that documented so that when your vet questions you on it, you have those answers and you can show that to your vet, why you're doing that, what you know about it, what is in it, how much you're giving them. All of those things are going to be really valuable. You also want to make sure that you are writing down any preventative things that you're giving your vet. That means flea and tick medicine. That means your Seresto collars. That means whatever you're doing to prevent things for your pups, you need to have that written down as well so that your vet knows what is covered and what isn't. Your heart guard, your neck guard, your stuff that you're going to be giving your dog, whether it is a topical, whether it is something they're going to eat, whether it is something like a collar, have that there, and then any information that is going to be valuable about that. I know it's a document heavy kind of conversation today, but taking pictures of just the information on the back of packaging can help you when you're having a conversation with your vet. It's also really good for you to know. It's also really good for research purposes later on should you need it. It's also incredibly helpful for you to remember the next time you have to buy it, which one you got. So I like taking pictures of the packaging because so often we'll open things up, throw away the package, and then what if we need to double check? It's very much along the lines of going to cook something, to bake something, and you throw away the box before you're finished with the recipe and you got to go dig it out of the trash. You can't do that if it's well after the fact. So take pictures of the packaging, just store them on a folder on your phone and have them there for when you need them, whether or not you're going to need them for your vet. I also cannot recommend enough that you are taking your own treats to the vet. They will have some there, but it's just whatever they got there. Take your own treats. Take your own treats, especially if your dog has any sensitivities. One of my dogs is extremely allergic to beef. I don't know what's in those treats. They don't have the boxes there. They're usually just in like little glass containers on the counter. I don't know what they're handing my dog. I don't know what that is. I also know that as the pet parent, I am often the one feeding the treats to my dogs. And sometimes those treats smell terrible. And then my hands smell like that no matter how much I wash them when I get back in the car, no matter what I do. Like it's a good couple of hours, even with a real hand washing, to get that smell off my hands. So I want to be aware to protect my dog. I want to be aware to protect my hands, and I want to make sure that I've got enough for them. Things they're familiar with, things their tummies are already familiar with, things I know that they like and they're going to respond to. And I would like to say an abundance of those treats. Make sure you have more than you think you're going to need. You might go through them. I've had my puppies need a lot of them when the doctor was examining something specific or needed my dog to hold still for, a couple of different vaccines or something, where I was just actively feeding that to my dog while they were getting poked or stuck with something. And I just went through everything that the vet handed me. I ran out. And so having more is always going to be better, and making sure that you have that so that you can control that environment for your dog is very, very helpful. You can allow them to use the ones that they have. That could be like a special treat. But if you have any hesitation on like food allergies or what it's going to do to them, if you have a sensitive tummy at all, please make sure you bring your own treats. It is well worth it to have those special treats. And then your vet can give them something extra if that is okay with you. Now, I also recommend that you're bringing a toy. Bring a toy to the vet with you because you're going to be sitting in the waiting room. You're going to be sitting in the exam room. I cannot tell you how long I have sat in exam rooms waiting for the vet to come in after I've done the intake with the tech. It's usually a pretty long time, and your dog is going to be all about sniffing around and looking at the different things and sometimes getting into a little bit of trouble. And I will say this, vet offices are not necessarily the cleanest because they go from one patient to the next. So we've got hair, we've got fur, we've got smells, we've got drool, we've got maybe some accidents, we've got stuff on the floor. We don't want your dog in everything. We don't want to pop your dog up on the table and then risk them like hurting themselves. We don't want them, heaven forbid, chewing on anything in that office. I'm very, very aware of the fact that there will be germs from other creatures in those rooms. And so I want to give something to my dog to kind of occupy their time if it's going to be a hot minute. So I like to bring a toy with me. You can also, and this is a bonus if you are like someone who doesn't like germs or doesn't want to sit on the floor. I'm very much a sit on the floor with my dog kind of person. I used to be a teacher and I would rather sit on the floor with the kids or sit on a desk than sit behind a desk. I was all about non-traditional seating. And so I carry that over to my dogs as well. And it's cold and it's dirty and it's gross on the floor. So bringing like a towel or a little blanket to sit on is just going to help comfortability for you and for your dog. Just because I have had to sit on those floors in shorts and just like, I wouldn't do it. I like to bring things with me. I never think about it, but I would like to bring things with me so that I don't have to sit on that gross floor. So taking all those things into consideration, you want to make sure that you are well prepared for your vet visit. And that is a lot of stuff that most people forget. People just kind of show up with their dogs and the vets are like, what is going on here? So do not get judged by your vet techs. Do not get judged by the reception area. Do not get judged by people for not showing up with a leash, for not showing up with things that are going to matter for your intakes. You want to make sure you've got all the information possible to make it the smoothest visit as you can. Because when you come with the information and with the things that you need, then you just have to focus on getting your dog better or making sure your dog is good, making sure you're getting through that with the least amount of stress. It's already a stressful situation to put your dog in a vet office for most dogs. There are some extroverts like my Lucy who just love it. They just love it. But most dogs are not going to love it, and a lot of dogs are really going to despise it. So making it as easy for you as possible is incredibly helpful. Bonus tip for you real quick. You also want to make sure you understand how you're going to be paying for that appointment and what your vet accepts. Not everybody accepts everything. My vet actually has a sign out saying if you use your credit card, you get an upcharge. So know those things. If you want to show up and pay with a credit card, know that in advance. If you show up with your credit card and you don't want to pay that, you'd rather use your debit card or cash, have that with you. Know these things before you go and know where they are in your bag. If you're somebody who carries a bag and it's a little bit hard to find things in there, because if you're struggling with a dog while you're also trying to pay, that could be a bit of a problem. Drop your questions about vet visits down below. We're going to continue to talk about how you can navigate the world of dog parenthood to get through the vet visits and the travel and the photos and the videos that you're using to document your dog's life and the tools and the resources and the technology you're using to level up for your pup. So we'll see you in the upcoming episodes as we continue to help you navigate the world of being a dog parent.